Alright everyone, so we have a new summoning event for Raid Shadow Legends, and I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that the double rates event for Sacred Shards ended yesterday. However, we still have the portal animation for boosted summons, and if you see here, we still have the text as well that says boosted summons 3 days, 18 hours. So there is another summoning event going on right now that just started, and if you go to the news section, you'll see it here at the top, the Undead Hordes summoning event. Now, I saw this pop up on my screen this morning when I woke up, and my first glance was, man, not another one of these events that has 10 times the rates to a specific champion. They seem all flashy, but when you really kind of break down the numbers, there's still nothing in comparison to saving your shards for the double rate events. But then I realized that when you actually take a look at the image, you'll see that it has all 4 types of shards, and that includes mystery shards as well. So this is going to be the first summoning event that we've had that actually has mystery shards. So that's really cool, and I'll tell you guys some information about that. But it does indeed have all 4 shards, the ancient shards, void shards, and sacred shards, which of course are going to be the common 3 shards for all the different summoning events in the game. But then I saw that it didn't just have a portrait of one champion, it's going to be a bunch of different champions, and this event is going to be not for one specific champion, but it's going to be for the entire Undead Hordes faction. However, the odds are not going to be 10 times boosted. They're going to be 5 times boosted, but they're going to be for the entire faction. And of course, the entire faction has quite a few champions. So this event is definitely going to be very interesting, and I want to break it down and let you guys know the info. I'll tell you guys the math and numbers as well for those of you guys who are interested in that. But overall, at a first glance, I will tell you guys, I think it's really cool that this event, at the very least, included mystery shards, something that the summoning events have not done yet. So that's cool because mystery shards are, there's really no reason, unless you want to save them for summon rushes or champion chase tournaments. It's cool that you get at least a little bit of a bonus from those right now while this event is running. You're not going to really need to save them for the other summoning events. The problem with ancient shards, void shards, and sacred shards is always a struggle of kind of deciding to yourself, when am I going to save them? When am I going to use them? You have to kind of deal with that struggle of saving versus spending and summoning with all these different types of valuable shards. But with mystery shards, at the very least, you get so many of them, it's cool that they have a little bit of a bonus. Now, when it comes to the main shards, ancient, voids, and sacreds, I will say that after a bit of a first glance and kind of breaking down the numbers, I still personally think that it's going to be worth saving your shards for the double rates event. I still think that that's going to be the king of all summon events, but at the very least, this is something interesting, it's something new, and I'll still kind of get into the math and numbers so that maybe if you guys do disagree with me, you can make that decision on your own. But the numbers are going to be a bit complicated because we have so many different champions in the Undead Horde section, and the odds are 5x instead of 10x. We have to kind of dive into this a little bit more. So before we do so, a couple of important notes about this event is, first of all, you guys probably did see that the summon event picture did have void shards, but it's really interesting because even though it does have void shards on the pictures, and void shards are still going to have boosted rates for this summoning event, there aren't actually going to be any void epics or legendaries. So if you go to the index, you'll see in the Undead Horde section, out of the legendaries, there are no void legendaries, and in the epic section as well, there are no void epics. So what does that mean? Why are void shards still included in the event? Well, there are void rares. So there's 6 void rares here, and this event is not just going to be for legendaries or epics, it's also going to include rares as well. So that's why the void shards are on the image, and I really don't know how to feel about this. At first glance, you might be like, well, I guess that's cool, right? Well, what this is going to do is it is going to increase your chances of getting void rares from the event, but it's going to lower your chances of getting all the other void rares from void shards. So I personally am not a fan of this because you guys, those of you who have been watching the videos for a while, you know by now that I still, after all this time, even after playing the game since April, I do not have a Bellower yet. So this summoning event for void shards for me is actually really bad because what it does is it increases the chances of me getting these void rares right here in the Undead Hordes, but that's going to lower the chances of getting the void epics, or sorry, void rares in all the other categories, and that includes lowering my chances of getting a Bellower. So, you know, if you're looking for one of these void rares in particular, like maybe a Seducer's pretty cool. That's cool and all, but I would say most of the void rares are actually not really going to be too great. So not too huge of a fan of the fact that it lowers the chances of getting a lot of the good void rares, like Cold Dart as well, Bellower. There's some other really good void rares that this event is actually going to lower the odds on. So that is definitely something to be mindful of before summoning your shards, especially your void shards. Now, you guys do know that this event does include mystery shards as well, which is really cool. Definitely going to be the first time that one of these summoning events has had mystery shards. And what this means as well is you do get a bit of a bonus of getting those boosted rates for rares from the mystery shards. So maybe if you don't have a Banshee yet, Banshee's pretty cool. One of the very few rares that actually has an area of effect attack 1. This is also going to increase your chances of getting uncommons and commons from mystery shards. Not really too big of a deal. These are pretty much always going to be food champions, but if you do notice that you're starting to see a lot of these guys start to show up in your mystery shards, that's going to be the reason why. So some things to be mindful of. Now, when it comes to legendaries and epics, there are no void legendaries or epics, so definitely something to be mindful of as we get into the math and the numbers, which I'm going to do right now. So let's kind of break it down, and in order to do that, we have to know how many total legendaries there are, how many total epics there are, and there are a total of 63 non-void legendaries in the game. There are a total of 96 non-void epics in the game, and I also have 17 total void legendaries and 23 total void epics, but I had those there before I made the realization that there are no void legendaries or epics in the Undead Horde, so we aren't even going to need these numbers for the info that we are going to get into. Now, let's get into legendaries. So out of the 63 total non-void legendaries, there are 7 of them in the Undead Horde section, and there's actually a lot of them in the Undead Hordes that are really, really good, and this is why I believe that Plarium made the choice to have Undead Hordes be the first one of the factions that they did this event on. If you're wondering, do I think they're going to do this again for other factions? I think they will. Do I think that they're going to do this for all the factions? I don't think so, because there are a lot of very lackluster factions in Raid Shadow Legends, and it wouldn't really make sense for them to have summon events in factions where you actually would not want the boosted rates, because a lot of the legendaries or epics might not really be too good. Like, do I think that they're going to do this for skinwalkers? Probably not, at least not until they maybe add some more good legendaries and epics to it. I think that if they were to do this, they would probably stick to the stronger factions, because that actually gives people a reason to summon. And Undead Horde is no exception. There are a lot of very good game-changing legendaries. So out of the 7 different legendaries, I think all of them except for maybe 2 to 3 of them are insanely good. So that's a lot of very strong legendaries in a single faction. And then even in the epics. Now, the epics in the Undead Hordes are going to be very, very good. I think there's all of them except for 4 to 5 of them are at least good or better, and some of them are absolutely amazing. So overall, in comparison to a lot of the other factions, the epics in the Undead Hordes category are also going to be very good. So this gives people a reason to actually summon. This is why they picked the Undead Hordes. It makes sense. They didn't just pick a faction at random. They definitely did this very, very strategically. So now as we get back into the numbers, we have 7 total legendaries, non-void of course, in the Undead Horde section, and we have 12 total epics in the Undead Horde section. Now, we don't need the 17 total void legendaries and 23 total void epics for these calculations, because we don't have any void legendaries or void epics in the Undead Hordes. Now, if we account for the 5 times boosted rates, the chances of pulling a non-void Undead Horde legendary are going to be 38.46, so a little over 1/3. Now, this number is very deceiving, because this is your chances of getting a legendary from the Undead Horde section after you've already gotten very lucky and actually pulled the legendary already. Now, even though this portal says boosted summons, a little bit deceiving that it's the same animation and the same look as the double rates event that we just ended up finishing with Sacred Shards, the actual chances of getting legendaries and epics are not boosted. They are still the same. No double rates for this, so your chances of getting a legendary from Ancient and Void Shards is going to be 1/2 of 1%. So 1 in 200, no boosted rates. For the Sacred Shards, you probably noticed if you were playing the last couple of days when you looked at this, it was highlighted a bit, which showed 12% and 88%. That means that the actual chances of getting a legendary were boosted. But now you go back to the screen and you'll see that the numbers are going to be non-boosted. It's just the chances of actually pulling legendaries from that specific faction, or in this case it'll be everyone from the Undead Hordes faction that's going to be boosted, not your chances of actually getting epics and legendaries themselves. So keep that in mind. It's still going to be very difficult and very rare for you in order to pull that legendary. So but if you do manage to get very lucky and you do pull a legendary, it's going to be an over 1/3 chance of being a legendary from the Undead Hordes category. Now, if you're looking for one particular legendary in example, or for instance, this is kind of where this event is a little bit weaker in comparison to the 10 times boosted rates, is this one is good if you're just looking for a lot of the legendaries in the Undead Hordes category. A lot of them are very good, but if you're just looking for somebody in particular, it's not going to be as good as those 10 times boosted events, because your chance of pulling a specific non-void Undead Horde legendary is going to be 5.5%. Now, this is after you've pulled a legendary already. So for Ancient Shards, just as an example, with a 0.5% pull rate, it's going to be a 1 in 200 chance of getting a legendary, then a little over a 5% chance of actually getting the legendary that you're looking for. You're looking at a little under a 1 in 4,000 chance from Ancient Shards of getting the specific legendary that you are looking for. So if you wanted to bad El Khazar as an example, if you were to pull Ancient Shards right now, it would still take you almost 4,000 Ancient Shards on average in order to get him. So important to know, you might get lucky. You never know how RNG works, but the odds are still pretty low. And I personally, after going through the math and the numbers, even though this event is cool, it's something new, it includes mystery shards, I would still personally end up saving your shards for those double rate events. Those are going to be the best chances to give you the better odds to get those epics and legendaries. So now if we go into the numbers for epics, it's going to be, we have 12 Undead Horde epics, 96 total, 41.67%, so almost a 50% chance of when you do pull an epic now that it's going to be an epic from the Undead Hordes, but it doesn't actually increase your chances of getting an epic. That's just your odds if you somehow already pull an epic. And then your chances of pulling a specific non-void Undead Horde epic are going to be a little over 3%, so 3.47%. So I think that this event is interesting. You know, overall though, my opinion on it is going to be pretty similar to a lot of the 10 times rate events, and that is going to be, I would still save your shards for those double rate events. I know I advocate for this a lot, but I do it for a reason, and that is because, especially for somebody who does not whale out, if you can't really buy a lot of the expensive packs that offer shards, if you're not a big spender, your shards are going to be one of the most valuable resources in the game. And Plarium and Raid Shadow Legends rewards you for saving your resources. You get more efficiency for saving those shards, and getting double the chances of getting epics and legendaries for a particular shard, that's going to be huge. This event is very tempting. That's why I like to call these bait events, is they're very flashy. They look very cool at first glance. You really want to participate in it, but when you kind of break it down, I still do like the fact that it has mystery shards, which is something we haven't seen before, but when you break it down, I still think it's definitely going to be best to hold off and wait for those double rate events. We just had one for Sacred Shards, so it's going to be a while before we see one for those, but we should see one for Ancient Shards coming around the corner sometime soon, and then Void Shards will probably be the one after that, and then Sacreds, of course, because we just had one, still going to be a while for that. We also have the holiday event coming up soon. We don't know the details of that, but who knows what craziness and madness that is going to entail. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for more information about that. But I have thrown a lot of info at you guys in the video today, so I am going to leave it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys did and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Over 23,000. Thank you guys so much for the support. If you want to help out, tossing a quick like means more than you can imagine. And of course, if you're interested in more Raid Shadow Legends videos, guides, tutorials, all that fun stuff, they should be popping up on the screen right about now. Also in the suggested videos, over 80 Raid Shadow Legends videos on the channel. Thank you guys once again. Have a great day, everyone. Take care, and until next time, this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.